This is from the look of the participants. So we are all in the afternoon, evening stages. So thank you for joining us on a weekend. It is and for making this commitment to be part of this discussion today, which is a very critical issue that we need to look at more depth in, particularly in the given times. But hear more of that as we move along. I would like to first, before we start, and welcome you all to this webinar today, which I hope will bring critical insights and which will also have put forward some signpost for us as we move forward. Like I said, we are living in very strange times, if nothing else, if not dangerous times, in which more walls than bridges are being built. And it might be good to see how we can, through this discussion, put forward some insights that will help us build bridges across communities and also bring out what is our own basic humanity of solidarity and working together and living together for the sake of the planet and for the sake of finding our own fullness and fulfillment in life. Having said that, let me first invite Bertha from the IYTC to give the opening remarks.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are, Bertha. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, everyone from Chiang Mai, Thailand, and a warm welcome to everyone joining us for this important webinar. This is our first webinar series for this year, webinar on racial discrimination and equality for all in Asia. So on behalf of the International Youth Training Center, IYTC, and IMCS Pax Romana Asia Pacific, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to our esteemed speakers today and all participants who have gathered, that we are going to reflect, discuss, and take actions against racial discrimination in our region. So this webinar marks an important moment, as we also know in the poster, and we commemorate today the 60th anniversary of the International Convention on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. So this is an opportunity to critically assess the realities of racial injustice that persists across Asia, particularly affecting Dalits, indigenous peoples, migrants, and of course others marginalized community. We also are privileged to have our speakers today, who will bring and share the perspective to our discussions. We'll have Dr. Jin Sung Chung, who will provide us with a global and regional perspective on racial discrimination. Mr. Joel Joseph, who will share his insight and on the current challenges and progress in the fight against racial discrimination, particularly for civil society engagement in Asia. Dr. Bernard, who will offer critical perspective on the experience of migrants community. Ms. Ima Mary, who will speak on the specific challenge faced by Dalit women and particularly on the quality education. Ms. Susan, a youth leader from Indonesia, who will bring forward the perspective of indigenous people. And Mr. Sumira, who will emphasize the role of youth at the same time, media and storytelling in challenging racial discrimination. So with them all, I believe this dialogue is a crucial as a step toward fostering solidarity, inclusion, and action. And it's not just about identifying the discriminations, it is about challenging it. It is about dismantling and building societies where equality, justice, and dignity are realities for all. So I encourage each of you here, to engage meaningfully, listen with an open heart, and take inspiration from today's sharing and discussions. And let this not be just another webinar, but a catalyst for change. So once again, thank you for being here. And I look forward to a thought-provoking, transformative conversation. Thank you. Over to you, William.
Thank you, Bertha, for those wise words of having an agenda to move forward as well. Let me now call on Anselmo Lee, who many of us know. He's also the director, regional coordinator of APSD, but many other things, many other networks and platforms as well. Anselmo?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be with you once again. I'm here as a representing APSD, Asia Civil Society Partnership for Sustainable Development, SDG, and also IYTC steering committee members. I just want to highlight the few important this webinar. This is the first time we are organizing the webinar on the human rights and SDG nexus. So obviously today is the anniversary of the racial discrimination, elimination of racial discrimination, which are important not only human rights issue but also important issue for SDG. So that's the first thing I want to highlight. Second one is this is also intergenerational dialogue. As you see in the composition panel, we have senior, the human rights advocate and then youth group. And then lastly, this is interdisciplinary. It's not only among civil society, but also with the UN expert and academic and youth activists in different countries. So that we can learn from each other how we can promote human rights SDG, especially on racial discrimination. So once again, thank you for all the organizers, panelists. So hope you can enjoy and also we learn as much as possible from each other. Thank you. Over to you.
All right. So having a thank you, Anselmo, for that, and to say that this is cross-cutting in so many ways. And the idea for it also to be cross-cutting in so many ways, intergenerational, intersectoral. The idea is also, of course, to be able to show that the issue of racism and discrimination, it cuts across many streams of our lives, and so it is good to see how we connect in those streams and how we move forward a rights-based focus, but also something that is very practical in the sense that it can be locked into the SDGs in its objectives and targets. So having said that, we will move now to our first speaker who will lay the ground for us in giving some historical background and currently where we are in terms of the convention itself. So I would like to invite Dr. Chin Sung Chung, who is a member of the committee as well on racial discrimination, and to take the floor. Doctor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have 10 minutes or
15 minutes.
Yeah. You've got about that much.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to congratulate you to hold such important forum celebrating, I think, is that right? Celebrating 60th anniversary of the International Convention on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. I'm honored to be invited here, especially I know the original this forum is organized by Pax Romana, is closely related. I'm sorry, I don't have enough information, but which Pax Romana, I have long relations with Pax Romana. I'm now the member of the third Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, but I started my UN job from a member of the subcommission on the promotion of protection of human rights since 2004. I mean, that organization now disappeared, and then instead of that, now Human Rights Council Advisory Committee is working with very shortened functions. But anyway, at the time of subcommission, I worked various things, but among them, the most important, my work was the special rapporteur job on the discrimination based on work and descent, which is the Dalit issue, caste-based discrimination. At that time, I visited India, Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Japan too, for investigation, and later wrote papers, reports. And the final report is Principles and Guidelines for elimination of caste discrimination based on work and descent. At that time, I got a huge support from Pax Romana in the area of India, Nepal, and so on. Especially, I remember Mr. Rajikumar he taught me a lot on the Indian situation. And when I wrote a report, he gave a valuable, tremendous help. I've heard he passed away some recently, and I'd like really sincere my condolences to him, his family, and his friends. Anyway, I'm so happy to have an opportunity to talk about the ICERD. And thank you very much again. I think I don't have to introduce the whole history of the International Convention. I think everybody knows very well. But I have to say that at the slide three, there is a mistake. I don't have to say. Who helped me to move the slide, please?
Bertha, page 3, please.
Third page. I mean, I will say there is a written 21st December 1965. It's mistake. 21st March 1965. 1, 2, 3, fourth line. Yeah. So please understand there is a mistake. And then now 180 states ratified this convention, in one of the most widely ratified human rights treaties in the world. However, non-ratification rates is high, relatively high, in the Asia-Pacific region. I mean, 12 states do not ratify yet. In Asia, we don't have regional human rights organizations, so we have to work more. And then I move more and move. I'm sorry, go. If I can manage. Oh, I will be very brief in the formal part, and please go to points of concern. Anselmo is helping me now. Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, ICERD, the content of ICERD, and the contents of the ICERD is important because from article especially 227 are dealing with the contents of the rights. So mostly state report and also the OHCHR's guidance to the state who did not submit the report for a long time. Just ask them to review the contents of Article 227 very closely, and then write about the situation of that. For example, state obligation. I mean, we are asking Do you have a law defining racial discrimination clearly for punishment or something like that? And then, for example, Article 3, we are talking about segregation and apartheid. And then recently, the is OPT, occupied territory of Palestine by Israel. Is there apartheid? Is there or something? That kind of discussions is going on. And then just move, please. Next. Anselmo, I don't have to, I don't have, I think, enough time to discuss all these things. And let's move to points of concern. Point of concern. So, yeah, here, yeah, at this slide, I'm trying to show what the third Committee on the Elimination is working for. I mean, there are at least 6 parts. First one, and the most important function of the third is state reporting procedure. Everybody knows very well. So NGOs and national human rights institutions also send their alternative report. And here, later I maybe saying again, but there are states which do not submit a report for more than 5 years. 5 years is not so long. Many states do not submit the report for a long time, and for more than 10 years, any state do not submit the report. So for those states, the OHCHR send the, request each committee to send the committee side first to the questions, according to the Article 2 to 7, and then the state can just answer those questions. So they call it a simplified reporting procedure. So all the committees are following that simplified reporting procedure, but third, as a first committee, which have a longest history, have very pride that we will keep the ordinary state reporting procedure. I mean, state submit a report, and then the secretariat and country rapporteur, we call the committee members review the report, and then have a dialogue and make a concluding observation, that kind of. Only simplified reporting procedure is applied to the state which do not submit a report for more than 10 years. This is the new element here. And then I will go next. I will, yeah. Please, I think I don't have enough time. Please go to points of concern. The third have the main function of state review procedure, but the in this process we have some concerns. First one is very important. So what is the definition of racial discrimination? Still there are discussions, especially the Article 1 of the convention said no distinction, exclusion, and so on the based on race, color, descent, national and ethnic origin, but we don't have a clear definition what is race. So all the time there are, dispute, what is race? It's just a color. No, it's race. I'm a sociologist. Race is a very social construction. Still, there are not clear definition. So we we get some good insight and then good advice from the civil society too. And then next page. Oh, simplified reporting. I finished already. So what is race? So for example, when we I told I have worked on the Dalit issue, and we found the problem of Burak people in Japan is very similar in nature, but Japanese government still very strongly refused that Burak people's discrimination against Burak people is not racial discrimination. It's just our peoples. It's a problem of among our people. It's not racial discrimination. That's all the time. When we review the Japanese government report, there is a trouble. So that kind of thing I have. The second point is, let's go. Please move. I was advised that just I focus on the point of concern. Maybe 40? No. What page is it? Please go, move. So I will say without PowerPoint. Forms of racial discrimination. Mostly we have dealt the direct discrimination, but there are other kinds of discrimination, indirect discrimination, right? Even though legally or apparently the equality is clearly enforced in some countries, but indirectly there are many forms of discrimination is going on. So we focus on indirect discrimination too. I think the next page, please. Yeah, here, right. And recently, the third discussion emphasized the structural discrimination and then systemic discrimination. The discrimination cannot be interpreted just individual level. The structural discrimination. Of course, racism is a structural issue, but we emphasized we have to understand the structural basis or context of the discrimination. So when the George Floyd incident occurred in the United States, the people at the third committee is a very typical case of structural discrimination formed for long structural context of slavery and then imperialism and so on. Yeah, and then this kind of discrimination is systemically made, systemic discrimination. Okay, and then intersectionality is a committee-wide conception nowadays. So only one factor cannot explain the feature of the discrimination, especially gender. When we see the for example, race and gender intersect, and make a very different nature of the discrimination. Also, disability of the refugee or migrant workers, the other factors, and sometimes two factors, sometimes three factors, more than that, and then make a more serious and somewhat different shape of discrimination. So intersectionality nowadays is very much emphasized. And in this aspect, LGBTI issue is strongly raised, but still strongly oppressed. So, yeah, some committee members argued that, insisted, LGBTI issue is transgender issue. Is not our mission, something like that. That kind of atmosphere is stupid, but is sometimes appears. And then third, Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination try to, what do you say, make a kind of important agenda of the third. For example, hate crimes and hate speech is very important issue, especially made by politicians. Then just the contents of the convention, ICERD, sometimes cannot cover these hate crime issues. So in that case, the third committee is making a general recommendation. So hate crimes and hate speech now dealing based on general recommendation, maybe 35. The SESC and other committee, they say general comments, but it's the same, general comments, general general recommendations are same, no difference. So there is a convention, but I don't know why the convention itself is not revised. Almost error, I don't know why. So instead, so if there is a necessity of clarification on some part, or the newly emerging phenomena should be, more legally and systematically discussed, then the third is making a general recommendation. Up to now, we have general recommendation 36 general 37 maybe, I don't know. And now we are working for other general recommendation on xenophobia. We are third, and then Committee on Migrant Workers, CMW, are working together and make us, common and shared general recommendation on xenophobia against the minority groups, including migrant workers. Yeah, and then racially motivated crimes are also very importantly dealt with. And I told segregation and apartheid. I will say the interstate communication issue to just after this issue. Anyway, is this kind of situation is apartheid, we can say, or just segregation, or the settlement activities of Israel in occupied Palestinian territory. There are that kind of discussions. the segregation apartheid issue. And then environmental racism is newly conceptualized at the ICERD, related with climate change, right? So racial, minority people on the basis of race, ethnicity, or color or something, are living mostly a very bad environmental atmosphere. So it is closely related with the right to health and so on. So we are working on environmental racism. Also, new technology, racism in new technology. We are discussing about, and then there is a move of general recommendation. One point I would like to add here is people of African descent is very actively discusses nowadays. And the African people very sincerely and actively work for reparation too. So at the third, we in our committee, the next general recommendation is on reparation, mostly African perspective. So as an Asian member, I argue that there is an Asian issue, also gender issue or something, but we are discussing anyway. The people of African descent is very importantly discussed now. And then, as you know, there is a working group on people of African descent, which is a Human Rights Council's mechanism. Anyway, we are related with the challenges. The next page, please. Challenges. Implementation. We can make a general recommendation. We can make a state review and concluding observation. But if state compliance is low, how we do that? This is all the time, not only the committee's issue, our committee's issue, but the apply to all other committees. But anyway, we are trying to how the mechanism for the effective implementation. So, for example, follow-up report procedure, follow-up procedure is one of that. When we make concluding observations, we pick up 3 or 4 paragraphs, and then which we consider is most urgent, and then ask the state to submit a report, follow-up report within 1 year. But it's not so well kept, but anyway. And then here I have to say we have early warning and urgent action procedure. Mostly, I don't know, since it was established in 1993 at the third committee, but recently the most important issue here is indigenous people. You know, there is a declaration of indigenous people, and then there is a forum of indigenous people, but there is overlap, but it is kick. If the indigenous people, not only indigenous people, sometimes other cases also came, but we can make a statement. We can mostly send a letter to the state government, and if we think it should be more widely publicized and then wake up the people's consciousness, we issue the statement and sometimes decision. For example, last year, the early warning and urgent procedure the working group issued a decision on Uyghur, China, and also last year, this year, we made 2 statements on the Palestine-Israel issue and so on. This is our another, but there is also, you know, in individual communication, but there is also interstate communication, which is defined at within the convention. It's Article 11 to 13 or something. Other committees have, all other committees have this kind of procedure, but only ICERD received this case from Qatar against Saudi Arabia, Qatar against UAE, but it is easily solved because there was a negotiation among themselves. But the problem is, I have to say, is a Palestinian group, the state of Palestine submit the interstate communication against Israel to our committee. And then we decide, we call ad hoc conciliation commission. We decide to make a good recommendation. We call is amicable solution. I don't know. Anyway, it's somewhat different from ICJ, but anyway, we are trying to solve the interstate conflict. And then 5 members are working for 2 or 3 years. Then we request both state government of the Palestine and Israel. The only Palestine appeared 3 times, but no presence of Israeli government. So in that case, what should do is a problem. We are in the agony. What is that? This kind of resources. The UN have all the time. I think the resource liquidity issue, but especially nowadays. So one step usually takes 4 jobs at the same time. So in my case, I'm working for Ukraine, and also the ad hoc conciliation follow-up. Anyway, it's too in deep. Anyway, but not only the committee members, but also steps. Steps are taking usually 4 jobs at the same time. And then it's really difficult to get help from the steps. It's the problem. And then the other one is composition of committee. Committee composed of 18 members, but the equitable geographical balance is only recommended. It's not rigid principle. So now currently among 18 members, there are 11 African members. Asia, only me and Chinese member. And Western Europe, 3, including United States, and Eastern Europe, only 1, and Central and Latin America, only 1. So that kind of regional issue is also the problem of ours. Yeah, I will stop here. I'm sorry I took so long time, right? And
No, Dr. Chung, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for situating the discourse. I think you started off very well by going back to what CERD is all about, kind of thing. And I like how you started by bringing up the issues that CERD has been looking at that are so historical, so embedded in our societies, and then coming on to some more recent things that we are looking at, like hate crimes and the LGBTI community and things like that, but also putting here today the discussion on Palestine and Israel and the challenges there in terms of what is happening there, and in terms of the practice like apartheid kind of thing. But I also like what you kind of highlighted some new issues, which, to be honest, I did not know you all were looking at it with that lens like environmental racism, and you talked about racism and new tech, you know. So it's interesting that you are looking at these new concepts, these concepts which bring out the kind of discrimination along racial lines that happens. So it will be very interesting to see how this is further elaborated in the work of the committee. I also like that when you're saying some of the challenges are the politicization of the discourse, and we can see that very much today, the politicization of this issue, which is largely a social issue that condemns basically our societies into different kind of configurations, and like I said, it builds more walls than bridges kind of thing, not allowing societies and communities to reach their full potential. So thank you for situating that discussion, and thank you for also showing the structure of the CERD and how because most people in this room would be familiar with it, but it is very interesting what you have said as well. It's the most ratified, the oldest convention, the most quite well ratified, very high level of ratification, but very little reporting. Surprise, 10 years also, there are member states that have not reported for more than 10 years, you know. But I like what you have also said in terms of your own persistence as the committee. And you said it's your pride that makes you all want to make sure that member states report in the normal report and not in the simplified manner kind of thing, which I think is important in many ways to make sure this issue is not diminished or neutralized in some ways through simplified processes of reporting. Thank you very much. And now we will move on to our next speaker, somebody we all know very well, former commissioner of National Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, and very well known in civil society circles, very well known within the Catholic student movement as well. I know him for a long time as well. Like to welcome Gerald. Looks the same since many, many years. Gerald, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, William. Good to see Bertha, Bernard, Anselmo. Happy to share. And first of all, happy International Day Against Racial Discrimination. So we celebrate the correct thing. Yeah. Friends, I think, yeah, we've got 5 speakers and only 45 minutes. So, it's a bit tight. It's the 60th anniversary of ICERD. I come from Malaysia, so ICERD doesn't bother us because we've not ratified ICERD. So that's how. So all the presentation is very good, but we struggle on what to do with it. I will start by sharing that a lot of things spoken about is never new because racism is alive, thriving, and kicking in the world. It's changed its face, but the structure has not changed. So even 25 years or 20 plus years ago, when we were very actively involved in the World Conference Against Racial Discrimination, I think the same group here, Pax Romana, I can see some faces here, Nalini and Anselmo. This is what 7,000 people were doing. There's a big group of Dalits went there to try to force recognition against caste-based discrimination. Not very successful on text, but I think the spirit caught on. The Tibetan voice still trying to find the space that time. Now, I think the Burako community, the Ainu community was also trying their best. Discrimination still happens. And this is the largest. Zionism continues to grow. It's now getting lots more power with Mr. Trump in power. This was a forum between Israel groups and Palestinian groups trying to talk on how to fight racism, but we never got anywhere beyond 15 minutes of a forum because it just broke down. Exactly what's happening now with the ceasefire. It just can never go forward because there's just greed and there's a very occupational and a framework that minorities don't matter. And of course, it's not, you just change the red words on top. You can put Trump, you can put any other US president. This was the crowd and the closing ceremony. I share some of the photos to also remind me of the amount of months and days and years we spend trying to push some agenda, it continues. Suppression by big players. Nothing has changed. US, China, India, you can put a long list of other countries. On the issue of, of course, Palestine, USA is blocking on the minorities in China, India, I'm sure our colleagues will share later. Governments always are in denial mode. Everything is okay. It's no big problem. Nobody wants to admit that they struggle with the racial discrimination. I don't know why they are so shy to admit. You can't hide anything now. You just Google, you find it, or AI will help you find it. But also one realization is never forget the pain of victims' community on the ground is real, and that needs to be highlighted over and over again. And this was my learning there, that you can come up with 200 people, you can do all the best effort. At the top, there is a political power play that will ensure you don't succeed. But sadly, also civil society is not one unified unit. No, it's polarized, and solidarity is not easy to achieve because we come from so many continents. Everybody's issue is important, but how do we come to a common strategy? So it's political. The UN remains political, but doesn't have the power to stop those kind of power play against minorities. And sometimes you feel very tired. It just takes up too much energy. I think Dr. Chung spoke about the CERD reports after reports, millions of words on paper, but what is the power of the words? Sometimes we hope one or two words will make sense. Sometimes governments are also getting smarter. They are also going for UN human rights training, so they know how to overcome these reports. Our own communities also have government organized NGOs, and they speak brilliant human rights language, but the idea is to be pro-government and anti-human rights NGOs. So this document remains there, thick document, hundreds of pages, Durban Declaration. I really feel nothing much has come out of it. They do this review annually in Geneva, but governments don't want to touch anything. There's no fourth world conference against racism. After what the US, Australia, and Israel made a pullout, calling it politicized by NGOs, as if NGOs have so much powers against superpower. But I want to now also move on from that reality. I come back to Malaysia when I was struggling in 2013. I was just preparing this, and some of these languages in our country, Malaysia is they always use that Malaysia is truly Asia, for those of you who remember the tagline. And that's a tagline that means that we have multi-religion, multi-culture, multi-ethnicity, multi-language. But reality is majority, what we call the Malay community, has privileges, affirmative action for the majority, one of the few countries in the world that has affirmative action for the majority. So politically, whenever there's a change, the target is one of the minorities communities, Chinese. So this is Mahathir. You may remember a former prime minister. He's going to be 100 years old today. I just wish he was 100 years old and not a racist, but sadly he's 100 years old and still a racist, So people are trying to scrub off terminologies to only give recognition to one community, like Bumi, sons of the soil versus non-Bumi. There was in 2013, about 12 years ago, this campaign to boycott Chinese. There was even an Air Asia boycott because the chairman of Air Asia at that time criticized the ruling party for calling for this boycott against Chinese. Then the Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir, said, we lost the political game because the Chinese community has rejected the ruling Malay elites that lost power after 60 years, hand of friendship. And so the game continues. And I just fast forwarded to today. This is just in the last few weeks. There's a corn seller, a small stall, who put a sign. When I use the word Indian Chinese, this is Malaysian Indian and Malaysian Chinese. He says he's selling corn. He's a small seller, and he says Indian cannot buy corn here. The whole Malaysian was shocked. The seller not want to sell. Then there's a radio station, a well-known radio station called Era FM, and the DJs during their break time, they were mimicking the Kavadi prayer form of the Hindus, and it got viral because someone took a video and put it up. 5 days ago, I think, an elderly Muslim gentleman stopped a non-Muslim Chinese boy, thought he was Malay, got angry because he was eating some food in the morning and slapped him, and now that's become a police case. The police are charging him. A Muslim preacher insulting Hindu religion by saying that Kavadi people are like drunk people dancing. I think this is one of the Hindu celebrations during Thaipusam where they get into a trance. Of course, people insulting Quran, Islam online continues. At present, 2 days ago, a 130-year-old small temple in the capital city, Kuala Lumpur, just the land has been sold to another Malay businessman, so now it's become a political issue. I'm just giving you these two scenarios to show after 12 years, the new set continues. The framework has not changed because the concept of equality in a nation where common citizenship is a right is not guaranteed. These are some of the pictures of some of the things I was telling you: corn cellar, the small temple, the dancing by the DJs, the preacher, the old man who slapped the young Chinese boy. And today, the local NGO I'm with, Pusat Komas, we released our annual racial discrimination report. So today was on March 21st, our 10th report that we have released today. And what we found today was, what we do is we document cases reported online, offline, through the Parliament report. So we found out from last year's reading, going through the Hansard, the Parliament official documents, that the members of Parliament in the Parliament House, when they debate, they are the ones who have uttered the most racist comments. Of course, they have immunity, so you can't charge them. So this is quite a shocker. Many media picked this up today. But also the report speaks about funny things like this one. The reason I'm showing you this is from business perspective. There was a campaign to sell chicken to only a Malay community, not to a Chinese. And then in how they described it, they introduced a new terminology in Malaysia. Now it's quite derogatory. They call it type C. That means type Chinese, type I, type Indian. So when they want to make a comment, they use the word type C, like our cables, So this has grown from last year. Now it's commonly used online. In schools, which are mixed religion, the education minister or present government reminded that the school canteens should open because there are still students who are not fasting. But the opposition Islamic party said, oh, that's very bad. This is a fasting month, so you should close all the canteens in school. And I think because we have Dr. Chung here, a member of the ICERD, we've been pushing to ratify ICERD. And the young gentleman in front, the older man at the back, is the chairman of the Human Rights Commission, present chairman. But the younger man saying that we should not ratify because on false information that majority will lose their power, Islam will lose its position as the official religion, So a lot of lies, and this lies is also why I'm saying that it's so difficult to get Malaysia to be to ratify ICERD, and we are quite embarrassed that we share the stage with North Korea, Myanmar, Brunei, the major countries who have not yet ratified ICERD. But when we wanted to push for it, this is what happened. The opposition political parties using race, ethnicity, did a big rally in Kuala Lumpur in 2019. They call it the anti-ICERD rally. 50,000 came to the streets. Many of these people have no clue what ICERD is, but they opposed it because they were told this is bad for the official position of Islam, for majority rights, So this is a picture of the rally. And I was a commissioner in the Human Rights Commission. We had to go to the street to monitor this rally against police violation. My last point is about as a commissioner in the National Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, Kosohakam, when I was a commissioner for 6 years. The civil service in all government departments in Malaysia, 95% are the majority race Malays. Something is wrong. It was not like this in the 70s or 80s. So even the commission, which is supposed to be a rights, equal opportunity, we have 90% Malay staff. The chairman of the commission is always a Malay, and I bring this out deliberately because there's no provision in law that says the chairman must be from the majority race, but this is happening. Although they are very good, the present chair is really a good retired judge who was my colleague in the last set of commission when I was there. I was shocked to find out some of the staff when I went down to the office level to talk to them, having this anti-ICERD banners, flags. I asked them, how come you're having this? You are supposed to be a human rights commission promoting this. In the commission, there was no specific monitoring of racism in Malaysia, no special task force department, which is quite sad because that's the largest human rights violation in the country. Police, prison, army, minorities within this have spoken to me whenever I visited them in their departments, in the prisons. They will call me aside after the official meeting. These are the minority who come talk to me that they are always bypassed for promotion because they are from the minority. They said that only the majority gets right up to a general or a director general. So they said they've been in service for 30 years. So this is racial discrimination. But sadly also, xenophobia is alive. So even within the Malaysian citizenship discrimination, foreigners, migrants, refugees, asylum seekers get it worse. So if you go to immigration detention centers, xenophobia is high. They get screamed, shouted, beaten, abused. I think some NGOs in Indonesia did some study of some of the centers of how they are treated in Sabah, in the Borneo state. I did a report with Human Rights Watch last year, and we released a report on the systematic abuse because it's like a black hole. Foreigners have very little agency to formally make a complaint. So hopefully we can find independent commissions, and the word independent is very important, exists on the issue of equality, anti-racism in Asian countries. Very few of them exist. I know India has many, but the standard needs to be reviewed. We need to look at legal frameworks, which is the best in Asia or other parts that we can import and try to encourage Parliament and our government to learn from. Very few in ASEAN. Mandatory racial sensitivity training for all civil service. I think this must be a standard set for everyone in ASEAN so that it's not an auto racism framework that we grow up with. We don't have curriculum in schools on equality, on human rights in many countries in ASEAN, I think, except for maybe Philippines, I think. And the universal ratification of ICERD should be a no-brainer, that who would be not a supporter against for fighting racial discrimination. But unfortunately, in Southeast Asia, we have 2 countries, 3 countries, and Asia, I think there are 4 countries. So this is us. We've waited 60 years for something better, but we also have small victories, big victories, some change of laws, some different, and I think we need to probably get ready for another 60 years of wait, but also 60 years of victory. With that, I wish all of you all keep up the struggle and solidarity with all friends here. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. I'm glad you brought up the World Conference on Racism. Yes, because, well, at least at that time there was that possibility, and there was a fantastic energy at that time. Yes, it was largely NGOs and civil society movements that were trying to raise this issue. But unfortunately, immediately after that World Conference, September 11th happened, and that platform of program of action, nobody knows what came out of this, even though there was a working group established that meets regularly. But it would be really nice to go because, like you're saying, it's an issue that is a no-brainer in us, should be a no-brainer for our societies, kind of thing. You know, I mean, it's so fundamental to, you can't speak human rights without, seeing that it's at the fundamental of human rights is this thing of discrimination, the principle of non-discrimination. So, and yet, what very disturbingly, you have brought out how uh, Dr. Chung was talking about structural and systemic racism, and that is so prevalent in our region. And you gave Malaysia as a classic example of that kind of thing, of how it happens every day, even till today, kind of thing. And now emerges in new forms, kind of thing, but not only within Malaysian society as it existed, but now with migrants that come into Malaysian society as well. So it gets more and more complex, kind of thing. So one would think that as the world became more global, and we talked about globalization and social media, and the world has become flat, kind of thing, and accessible in so many ways to all of us, one would think we would be more appreciative and more understanding, but we seem to be moving in the totally opposite direction. And you have given a very, very good, mind opening kind of intervention here as to what is the challenge, kind of thing. I hope the challenge is not as big as Martyr's years that he continues to live. So I hope we can come out of this seminar with some hope. But having said that, let me move on then to the third speaker, and who will Dr. Bernard Sami, also from the Pax Romana movement from India, who actually Dr. Chung worked very closely with, I think, with Raj Kumar in earlier days, kind of thing, small friend circle, kind of thing. But it is good to have you and seeing you after a very, very long time, Dr. Bernard. Well, it's good to see you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, William. And after meeting you after many years, and great to meet you and great to see you. And also to meet many of my friends here, Anselmo, Gerald, with all of whom we worked very closely. Am I audible? Not a problem, no? Audible. Okay, right. Yeah, I think Dr. Chung has set the tone correctly for the discussion today. And she also mentioned about Rajkumar. And I also recalled Rajkumar today because he used to tell us that this convention, one of those who wrote this convention is from the part where I live, Chennai. So Rajkumar used to tell about, that one person was from here who wrote the ICERD convention. So Rajkumar used to give such a great historical background to every convention, and particularly to the convention on racial discrimination. That was closer to his heart, and he followed all the um, periodical reports submitted by all the countries, and particularly countries which are greatly in concern for us, South Asian countries. Having said that, the 1965 convention, when it was adopted in 1969, the realities were three realities: Holocaust and apartheid and the civil rights movement in US. But now, when we look at the convention, the reality has so changed. As mentioned by all the speakers, the 2001 WCAR, Conference Against Racism, that was the one which brought to light the contemporary challenges, particularly what has been spelled out by Anselmo in this, for this today's discussion. Dalits, indigenous people, migrants, all of them have been mentioned and deliberated and elaborated in the World Conference Against Racism. So this is the background, I think, in which from 2001 onwards we see the new issues that are coming under the scanner of racism, and I have an advantage. The chair William is coming from MFA, so any question to me is also a question to William. So in that way, William William is with me to answer many of your questions on migration. That's the advantage I have, and I see the three corridors of migration, and all of us know that the first corridor, which I would like to mention here, is the Mediterranean corridor, about which only many are concerned, and particularly Pope Francis is very much concerned. And this is where the latest report says 2014 to 2023, 28,000 people have died or missing. So the MENA region, Middle East and North African region, trying to cross Mediterranean and trying to get asylum in some of the European countries, Greece, Italy, and other European countries, entering Greece, Italy, and then moving into Europe. The second corridor is the Mexican corridor, where I have given the number something like 35,000 or so. They have been 33,70,000 were interrogated in this border, and particularly this is coming from the background. Yeah, it's there in the PowerPoint PPT. And the third region is the Gulf region, from where the Asian migrant workers, they go to Gulf. They also, from South Asian countries, they go to Southeast Asian countries. This year, I think Malaysia is the head for ASEAN. And when the ASEAN, when one of the delegation, when they visited here, we were telling them that, as a head of the ASEAN, Malaysia also should take into consideration. You have an ASEAN Declaration of Migrant Workers, but ASEAN Declaration of Migrant Workers takes care of the workers from the 11 countries within the region. So I have been telling them that to Malaysia, South Asians are coming. India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepalese, whether they are covered by the Asian Declaration on Migrant Workers, they are not covered. So in that way, we have problems with instruments like, the regional instruments. In the case of migrant workers, it doesn't cover. And Southeast Asian countries, Philippines and Indonesia, and our own region, South Asian region, we are labor export countries. All of them, they go to Gulf countries. And I have mentioned maybe in the next slide, observation made by the special rapporteur for human rights for migrants, George Bushwande, and he was talking about the abuse and discrimination in transit and destination countries, racism and xenophobic acts, and particularly I have mentioned about the ADD, arrest, detention, and deportation. And all of us are concerned about the undocumented workers. Documented workers, of course, they get little protection. I won't say that it is complete protection, but living in another country, they are treated as second-class citizens. They are subjected to xenophobia, racism, intolerance every day. But the undocumented workers' condition is even more pitiable and pathetic. And this is where, the countries, many are in prisons, and countries getting the details of those who are in prisons is also becoming difficult. And these days, the MOU signed between the country, sending country and receiving country, that is also considered as confidential information. The civil society organizations are not able to get access to the copies of the MOUs between the sending countries and receiving countries. So in that way, the migrant workers are, exploited day in and day out. If it is women, and particularly women, the South Asian region has the restriction of women leaving after 30 years. We don't know what is the reason for fixing 30 years as a age for asking women to leave for work. They think that, below 30 means they will get exploited, and after 30, they will not get exploited. I don't know what is the meaning of this, but women are allowed to leave only after 30 for domestic work. And it is a modern day slavery in the Gulf countries for the labor migration. Two countries from Southeast Asia, Philippines and Indonesia, both the countries where it is feminization of migration. Large number of women go to these countries. And from Southeast Asian region, it is male migration. So this migration is a single male migration and single female migration. And I have mentioned policies that are followed by the sending countries. The sending countries, the macroeconomic problem for the sending countries in our region is they are not able to handle the problem of unemployment. So they close their eyes and then ask the migrant workers and ask the workers, you leave for another country for work, but they don't provide any protection. So in that way, all of us are aware in our region. When I say region, it is both, the Asian region, the people who leave for work, they leave for work. But only very few go with valid, the the long-term visas, or with the workers' visa. The visa that is meant for workers. Most of them, it is undocumented migration. The convention on the migrant workers' rights, it protects documented and undocumented workers. But on the other hand, today we are having a new instrument, GCM and GCR, Global Compact on Migration and Global Compact on Refugees. And undocumented migrants have become, the victims of prejudice, bias, detention, deportation, and every airport has a detention center. And this is how, the sending countries' policies, most of the time the sending countries are not taking any action on the agents who are sending them. So it is mostly they are being trafficked for forced labor. It is forced labor for forced work, right? So in that way, I think it is a forced migration, and it is trafficking and smuggling of migrants from this region to the to Gulf countries, and from our region to Singapore and Malaysia also. This is the one that is taking place. Most of the time, the sending countries, they don't have policies. If there is a migration policy, some countries have. Most of the countries, they don't have. Some of the countries have MOU, but these MOUs are not revisited. They are not updated. These MOUs are signed once upon a time, and in that way, migrant workers are left with no choice. The receiving countries, they have the restriction for receiving the migrants. Capital can move, but not the workers. The capital can move, money can move, but under the guard to mode 4, natural persons moving has such a lot of restrictions. It is all short-term visas. It is all single male migration, single female migration. Reunification is impossible, and family migration is impossible. So these are the difficulties that the migrant workers are facing in terms of the policies followed by the sending countries and in the receiving countries. As mentioned, as a Catholic, group, there are definitely the International Catholic Migration Commission is there, and most of the Episcopal conferences are members of this, and there are congregations like Scalabrinis who are experts. They have training centers, they have intervention centers, they specialize in migration. They are there. And FABC has conducted seminars, conferences, their Office of the Human Development. They also address this issue. But the magnitude of the issue is so big, and our interventions are so little. In that way, the migrant workers issue has not been addressed properly, correctly, adequately so far. finally, we also have civil society and civil society organizations. And there are coalitions at the Asian level, there are coalitions at the national level. Civil society organizations are running it, and all of us know that now this we have in SDG 10.7 is a standalone SDG which calls for safe, regular, responsible migration. Whether to make the migration safe, the question we are raising today now is this: how safe is safe migration? Because in the name of the safe migration only, trafficking is taking place, smuggling of migrants are taking place, and so that way I think the Asian region is one region which doesn't have anything adequately to protect the migrant workers. The keynote speaker Chung also mentioned about the migrant workers and their plight in the report submitted by the countries. And we also know how the reports are being submitted. Most of the time it is caste related ones that are coming to the report, but not migrants. So very difficult to find the migrants' plight in the racism agenda. So in that way, unless and until we take special effort to insert the migrants' xenophobia, racism, and intolerance into the agenda, I think it will remain more in terms of racism at the level of caste and race and other areas, other fields. It will not percolate down to the migrant workers. So in my opinion, in short, what I would like to say is this: racism convention on the elimination of racial discrimination, it has provisions, but those provisions has not been taken as an advantage by the civil society organizations and state parties to include the plight of the migrants. I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bernard. And I must say, I'm very impressed at how you have put the whole issue. I was hoping somebody would take up the issue of migrants. As you know, it is an issue that is close to me. But at the heart of this, and you have brought it out very, very well, I think, in the sense of at the heart of racial discrimination has been historically the practice of slavery. And I think the experience of slavery has been the highest kind of manifestation of racism, kind of. And we have seen that at least in history as we know it. And this is an othering principle in the human community, where you don't see the one that is a slave as somebody belonging to your community. It is ironic that after 1,000 years or hundreds of years that we have given up slavery or moved away from slavery, today we talk of, in the migration context, we talk of forced labor and modern day slavery. So it is almost as if it is reinventing itself in modern times, kind of thing, this practice of slavery. And it once again institutionalizes the practice of racism and discrimination. And I think this is very, very, very well put out by you. So I think that's an important insight, which I think is not also in the human rights community. Because even in the human rights community, we are so used to, within human rights community, to look at human rights issues with certain lens, like political and civil rights, economic, social, cultural rights, indigenous people's rights, and things like that. And so migrants becomes another set of rights for another sectoral group. Yet when you start looking at who is the migrant, tangibly the migrant is just somebody in your society who is not probably born in your society. But other than that, there is no substantive difference between you and the person, kind of thing, that you other the migrant so much. You create so much of distance between you and the migrant that othering principle comes so much into effect that you are literally able to then tie that person into forms of slavery today. And this is something that Gerald also pointed out when he was talking about the context in Malaysia, kind of thing. And we've heard horrible, horrible stories of this. Sometimes media picks it up, the state issues of torture and exploitation, kind of thing. And we think of this as, oh, one story or one migrant who got tortured and things like that. And like what you are saying, there are thousands and millions of people on the move today, having that experience kind of thing. And it is important for us to see how we then understand the migrant not as the other, that we reinforce structural forms of racism and discrimination, but how do we create bridges, or how do we form linkages between the migrant and ourselves, where we begin to recognize a, a common shared kind of world in which migrant and locals can kind of survive together kind of thing. But thank you for pointing that out. It has been very, and I think it's important. It's nice that even Dr. Chung said, I think that the Committee on Racial Discrimination, Elimination of Racial Discrimination, and the Committee on Migrant Workers are now working together to come out with a general recommendation. So that would be very, very interesting. And Dr. Chung, if you have a questionnaire that you would like to circulate in this webinar, if it is there already, questions that you all are looking at, it would be very, very helpful for all of us who are very close to this issue as well. Let me now bring on our next speaker, Ms. Ima Mary, who is an educator and a Dalit movement rights activist, and of course a senior ICERD. So same movement, IMCS. Yes, Ms. Ima.
Good evening, everyone. And I want to start with a very powerful slogan. We all believe this. Jai Bhim. So Dr. Baba Sahib words echoed across generation. He fought for the rights of the Dalits. And not as just a slogan, not as just a call, but as a mission for every oppressed soul of the land. Educate, organize, agitate. And today I stand here not to just to repeat these words, but to remind each one of us present here, these are not mere words, but they are the tools of liberation. So I want to present here how we can build an equitable society. Yes, we are all critically reflecting. We have been looking at different forms of discrimination, racial, caste, but how education can be a powerful tool for this liberation is where I want to contextualize my presentation here. And I've been into the education space, particularly working with the marginalized communities since 28 years. So I'm going to present where the India is boasting, like, India is shining, and our Prime Minister travels across the country and he hugs everybody and he wants to build the India economy as the 5th largest economy. But is it really happening? Where is India now? In the context of what is the different story we need to understand at the bottom? Can we have the next slide, please? So even today, if you look at it, so these statistics, it shows that, the kind of 75% literacy, millions of colleges and universities multiplied. But the truth we need to understand here is India is a home to 287 million illiterate adults, the largest in the world. And that is 37% of the global total. 60 lakh children in India remain out of school, and that is nearly like half of them being girls. So education exclusion remains deeply tied to this caste, gender, geography, as well as the poverty. So let's understand a little more deeper the story. Behind all these numbers, who are the people? Who are the sufferers? The Dalits, the Adivasis, the minorities who continue to be pushed to the margin, excluded from the opportunities that are just taken for granted. So I'm here to focus, like we have been telling, like, SDG goals, like we have to achieve that 2030. So here, particularly focusing fundamentally SDG 4, access to quality education. The official goal says that ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. But what's really happening? Is there an inclusion or exclusion? So let's look at some of the hard truths. So education, we should understand that it is not just a tool for personal growth. Like here, I'm a first generation learner presenting to you all because of the right, of my education, which I fought for, and I'm able to articulate my thoughts to before you. So, but what is happening, the reality is, for education, it gives you the dignity, it gives you the social justice, it's a tool for equality. But millions of Dalits and marginalized communities, even today, after saying that India is 75 years, achieved independence, but it is still kind of, the doors are shut. So first, look at what is the systemic barriers. Like if you look at it, many, if the education is not given to them, when they are pushed to the margins, like very rarely the voices of the marginalized communities are represented. So the needs are ignored, the realities are unseen. We're not only seeing in the education scenario, even the crime rates. Like every day, if you look at the National Crime Records Bureau, like reports 2022, like every day 10 Dalit women are raped somewhere. So now this year, last year's report is still delayed. The census has been delayed. So even the numbers, the data has been suppressed. So it's silencing our voices, invisibilizing. So that is continuously happening. Next slide, please. So particularly in the context of education, if you look at it, look at the data, like almost like 1 lakh schools are run by single teachers, right? Single teachers, that's a reality. More than like, the vacancies of the teacher vacancies are kind of more than 11 lakhs, like there is no vacancy fulfilled. And this definitely has a deeper impact on the, like, if you look at it, impact on the children's learning outcomes. So what happens in the All India State Education Report, which recently released, it shows that the foundation literacy and numeracy, a class 5 children, mostly here in India, the Dalit children, the marginalized community children go to the government schools. So they do not have a fundamental foundation literacy and numeracy. Yeah. And post-pandemic, it has become worse. So they do not have, like a class 8 student cannot read and understand and comprehend class 5 textbook. So how a single teacher can manage all the children? Do they really give justice? So it is constant struggle as they're trapped in the cycle of poverty. Next, I want to highlight the issues of child labor. According to 2011 census, over 10 million children, that is nearly 1 crore, between the ages of 5 and 14 are child laborers in India. And it only made worse after COVID-19. So there are no proper data study to do at national level. And there is a lot of insensitivity, the committees, like, there is no, so a lot of small civil society organization has been raising this issue. A joint ILO and UNICEF 2021 global report warned that pandemic has pushed millions of children worldwide into labor, and particularly India is identified a high-risk country. 18 months of schools were closed down. 18 months, you trust me? Like only the state that I'm working in, Telangana, more than 3 lakhs teachers from low-income schools, they lost their job. Yeah, and many children had to drop out because of their economic hardship, and the parents were not able to afford, or the children were not able to get back, yeah, to their studies, and nobody was there to go enroll and put them back to the school. So in rural India, children dropped out because they have to work in fields of bricklayers. In cities, they took into the vending on the streets. Even the teachers were selling fruits on the bananas, and they've shifted the whole job because of the 18 months of school closure. Apart from this, you also see that lot of, even today, if you look at it, hardly we have 50% of the government schools provide good or safe drinking water, or they have good sanitation facilities. So these lack of safe environments, all these things definitely pull out the children from the school, especially the girls are vulnerable and they are facing high risk. So it is estimated almost 60 lakh children are out of school, of which 47.8% of them are girls. And definitely, that in the next census, all these girls will be counted as illiterate women, and the ripple effect of education for their children, they cannot participate in their cultural, social, and intellectual affairs like other peers of the same age. And now let's look at the hardcore truth on caste-based exclusion. So even after 75 years of independence in India, Dalit and Adivasi children face humiliation and segregation in classrooms. In 2023 survey, Tamil Nadu Untouchability Eradication Front, so TNUF report, out of 400 schools they studied, at least 30% of the school, 45, almost like they were discrimination and facing discrimination and humiliation. So they were bound to have separate eating spaces for adult children. They were made to clean toilets, separate drinking water facilities, and visible discrimination, what they recorded. So it's not only in Tamil Nadu, across India, this is a story. In Bihar, it is also worse. Added to this, the poor infrastructure, as I mentioned, 40% of the school, 41% of our school only in Shining India have drinking water facilities and 59% do not. And also, I've mentioned already to you, more than 1,10,971 schools in India run by single teachers. So apart from this, it was a hard truth to understand what is accessible, for the quality education for these children. During pandemic, the digital divide was so much. Like, when education moved to online, only, trust me, 8% of the children from marginalized communities continued learning. Rest of the children, they left behind. Nobody was there to support them. I'm sorry, not marginalized community, 8% of the children in India only. Remaining children did not have any access to children. So what does this mean to the future? Why do we need to critically look at these things? As I said, education is a backbone to liberate all of us. So when the marginalized communities are locked out, from these, pushed away, so it is the generations being locked out from decent jobs. They get into the poverty cycle, locked into the silence. So these systemic barriers perpetuates discrimination and poverty again and again. So is really shining India? Certainly not. Okay. So this perpetual poverty pushes the youth also, even if they come to higher education and they do not acquire employability skills. It's a lot of struggle for Dalit people from marginalized communities, from tribal communities. They come all the way to universities and many of them lag behind because they can't speak in English. So they also feel so much, left out within the universities. So these are the realities, and I'm one like that who fought against it and built the two institutions to support a lot of youth and children in the schools who are studying in underprivileged communities. So it also, like, from the context of girl children, if you understand, even now early marriages in Rajasthan, it very much prevalent. The girl children from Dalit communities, or like in the slums, which I'm working now, 7 urban slums, people in Bangalore, the girl children, they feel that marriage is a security. They don't understand that by the age of 14, 15, even now early marriages prevail and they get into the cycle of poverty. So what we can do, what I would like to suggest here for university students, because I really believe the university students, we all, all the Christian missionaries, so many people, we have schools here, we have universities here, and we discuss so much of pain in terms of violence and discrimination, but rethink the strategies of building the movement back. We have the people, but are we really bound to teach only what is in the textbook? We need to go beyond that to build the critical discussions, critical thinking in the mind. So that is what I want to call for, because as an ICOFR, as a student of NSS, as a youth, I build these energies, and now still continues because of the critical reflection about the society, telling who is a Dalit here, why you as a gender you're being discriminated. So it's very important to give critical education. So I would like to really call this, as a youth, they have immense power to make a difference. Become a part of reach and teach initiatives. Go to the communities, go to the people, go to the grassroots, build their foundation skills. So let them not go to school, carry the paper-based degrees, but not purposeful education. So build the foundation education for them very strong. So my second recommendation would be start mentorship programs, because most of the first generation learners from Dalit communities, they need a lot of guidance in terms of going forward in education career choices. That's what I tell my ICOF people also, my mentors. Please start the career guidance so that they have a direction where to move forward. I didn't even know there is a university called JNU existed, Jawaharlal Nehru University. because being with the circle, it was easy for me to get into that path. Otherwise, nobody tells you what, where, to move forward. And all the educators, all the people have a deeper responsibility to do that. Conduct research on exclusion and bring those voices into policy discussion. Yes, we are all on the track, but we have to start the journey right from the first year of college among the students. Organize digital literacy camps here and in the rural areas and slums and wherever the underprivileged, give them that, bridge that digital divide. And most importantly, use our campus space for conversation, critical conversation on race, caste, privilege, justice, yes, and how to build the movement. Very, very important. And what is my recommendation here for the faith organizations or all the Christian institutions here is like to promote equality in action, not just by words, not by lectures. So make our institution more inclusive, more accessible to poor, Dalits and minorities, and especially being more gender sensitive. Recently, I was in a couple of colleges which is run by Jesuits. I had a discussion with them. Girl children say that, how much they feel bullied or discriminated or teased. It's very important, building that equal space, a safe space, not just for the caste alone, but for the gender also. Offer scholarships and preparatory programs to the level playing field. And building community learning centers where children, like, how we can have extension centers from the university, how a community learning centers around and have these dropouts to come back. Because all the time you see a Dalit person fighting for the survival, for the existence, education becomes secondary for them. So until unless we bring them back to the education space and break the cycle of poverty, you cannot build the power. Yeah. Train our teachers with compassion and inclusivity. They need to be very, very conscious, because building movement is not a single person journey. It is a team. It's a collective strength that we need to build. Use our voice to advocate for policy change, because we carry a moral authority that can move mountains. And this is what we need to believe is running institutions or building colleges is not charity, but it is a deeper justice. It's our responsibility. So if we don't act on this, definitely the cost of failing to act is paid by the poorest and the most marginalized. And the cost of inaction will also be paid by our society in the form of deepening divides, lost potential, and wasted lives. So friends, what I want to really emphasize here is education is the key to dignity, for the economic security, and fundamentally for social justice. It is a pathway, not just for India, for the whole world and any country, where every child, every person who is oppressed, regardless of caste, class, race, can dream, can learn, can thrive with a quality education. So let us not wait. Can I have the next slide? If we really want to build an equitable society, let us not wait. Let us not turn away. Let us commit as students, as educators, at faith-based communities to create access to quality education for all, to end racial and caste discrimination, to build an equitable society. So thank you so much, and look forward to building collective strength for change.
Thank you, Mary. That was a very powerful presentation. In some ways, you took us all back to our student days, which an eye cover could very easily do. So thank you for that. And I find it very interesting though. And even as you were speaking, I was just there, reflecting on the fact that you are putting such an emphasis on education, the need for education, as if education can bring down those barriers. Education can bring about equality. Education can bring about equity and inclusion. And I fully agree with you, because we come from student movement ourselves, and that is why we still remain committed to social justice movements. But the irony of it is, and I was thinking just today in the US, the president of Trump, he actually closed the Department of Education, and he closed down the Department of Education by an executive order, because he felt this department is no longer required, kind of thing. And a lot of the work that the department was actually doing was ensuring diversity, equity, and inclusion, kind of thing. It was giving history of race, and it was giving curriculums or expertise of facilitating curriculums against racism and understanding the history of the US and things like that. So it is very ironic that the richest country in the world and the most powerful man in the world today shuts down the very institution which you are saying is critical to us becoming aware of social justice and equality in our world today. So I think that's why your talk becomes all the more powerful and all the more important for us to believe in that. And so thank you very much for that. And we will now, and I beg your permission, we have definitely gone way over time, 15 minutes over time already, and we have two more speakers. And it's not fair to the last two speakers. I will leave it to you. I will appeal to you if you have PowerPoints to see if you can cut it short, but I will leave it up to you to make that decision as well. But I'm requesting if all of us could hang on for a little more time, let's say another 15 minutes, and then we can end. So without much ado, then I will call on the next speaker, Susan from Kandimayu. Susanna. Susanna from PM Green. You've got to unmute, Susanna. Susanna, are you? Bertha, is Susanna having problems connecting or?
Yes, seems she's facing. Yeah.
Oh, she's dropped off now, I think. All right, if she's dropped off, then maybe we can then go to Sumera Gunasekara, human rights advocate and freelancer, announcer from Kailan, Sri Lanka. Sumera?
Good evening from Sri Lanka. I'm Sumira from IYTC. So Bertha, can you go to first slide? I don't have much presentation, so it is short and sweet. I will go fast. Honorable speakers, esteemed guests, and my dear friends, I stand before you today not just as a speaker, but as someone who has lived throughout the shadow of discriminations, abandonments, and injustice. I stand before you as a voice for those whose cries have been ignored for far too long. In Sri Lanka, for 30 years, was inflicted its brutal civil war. Tamil, Sinhalese, and Muslim families lost their loved ones. Even now, decades after the war has ended, justice remains a distant dream. Can you hear them? The mother's grave heart, weary but unbroken, still searching for their children, still demanding answers. Their cries do not fade. Their grief does not age. Their hopes has become their only weapon in a battle against silence, my dear friends. But how long must they wait? How many more decades must pass before their word listens? Can you go to the next slide, please? No, you have to go to next slide. Yes, please. The pleading of plantation Tamil community. This is the most important problem in Sri Lanka nowadays. So justice not just about war crimes, my dear friends. It is about dignity. It is about recognizing every human being as worthy of respect. And yet, in Sri Lanka, the Tamil people who have labored for generations in tea plantations, who have built the very backbone of our economy, are still fighting for living wage. They work from sunrise to sunset. Their hands closed from plucking tea leaves that the world enjoy. but their own children go to bed with hunger. Worse still, they are invisible in their own country. My dear friends, they do not have proper registers addresses. Imagine that, being born, living and dying without an official extents. How can nation claim to be just when its own people are ghosts in the eyes of system? We are fighting for them, and we will not stop until their names are written, until their identities are recognized, and until they are given what rightful theirs, not as charity, but as justice. Can you go to the next slide? This is most important thing. Now I'm going to share about myself, not only myself. Myself mean my life story, short and sweet. My life story reflects so many others. I know what it means to be abandoned. When I was born, my parents left me, not because they didn't want me, but because I was different, because I was born without right hand. In their eyes, I was broken. But let me ask you, who decide what broken means? And my story not end there. My mother did not choose to bring me into this world. She was raped. She was raped. Again and again, I want to say she was raped. And I ask you, should such horrors exist in this world? Should any child be born from such a violence? Should any mother carry such a pain? My memory is running far away for my childhood times. I don't want to hurt you by telling you about my childhood experience. But the experience of being in various orphanages is very painful, my dear friends. I still have those wounds in my body today. I don't hesitate to say that I suffered more in my childhood than Jesus suffered on cross. He will forgive me. He will forgive me for that. He knows me. I still have those experiences in my head. Very cruel. That's why I still speak for them, those children today. And my dear friends, I'm not asking you to pity me. I'm asking you to fight this as much as you can. Those orphans have only you and me. I know I'm not alone. You guys are with me. Across Sri Lanka, across Asia, across the whole of the world, there are children abandoned, forgotten, unwanted. Who speak for them? Who fight for them, my dear friends? Think about that. We must. So can you go to the next slide? This is my now photos. Go to the another slide. Okay, the play of change. Racial discriminations, injustice, and systematic oppressions are not abstract concepts. They are real, my dear friends. They have names and they have suffered long enough. We must fight for the mothers who still wait for their missing children. Not only Sri Lanka, but also the genocide in Gaza. We must fight for the plantation workers who deserve dignity and fair wages. We must fight for the children who have been abandoned, unloved, and forgotten. We must fight for every Tamil, every Sinhalese, every Muslim in Sri Lanka, not only Sri Lanka and also all over the world, has been a victim for a violence and wars. My dear friends, think about it. No one should be invisible in this world. No one should be unwanted. No one should live without justice. The victim must no longer be a victim. They must have justice. They must breathe. At least, in short, they must live in peace because they are also a human being. And I ask you all, will you stand with us? Will you? Will you fight with us? And will you speak when the world tries to silence us? Dear friends, justice is not given. It is taken, and together we will take it. Together we will take it. We must. Please go to the next slide. Hope for the future. As we mark 6th anniversary of International Conventions on the Elimination of all forms of racial discrimination, let us not just reflect the past, but commit to action for the future. I hope that we can gather next year on the next meeting, not just to speak of injustice, that's enough, but to celebrate real progress we have made together in dismantling discrimination and uplifting the lives of those who have been left behind. I thank you for the fight you have fought so far. I thank you. And I thank you in advance for the battles you will continue to fight, my dear friends. At last, I want to say this with very lovely heart and affection heart. I leave you with this. Let us not wait for justice. Let us create justice. Thank you. I'm Sumira from Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Sumira, for that testimony that you have given. I think it's a very powerful testimony of the experience you yourself have gone through, but also of what your people have gone through, what Sri Lanka has gone through. Many of us are aware of that civil war that you had in the country. And we know that even while the war has ended, a lot of that discrimination, a lot of the exploitation, and like you said, still continues very much. Also, like you focusing on children and calling us to recognize the children, especially those who are born out of discrimination or who face discrimination, who are born homeless. And you have touched upon even the war in Gaza, where we know for a fact just day before yesterday, when after the ceasefire was broken by Israel and the bombing happened, and the 400 plus people that died, many of them were women and children. And we have seen stories of so many children being lost and feeling homeless, kind of thing. So your testimony is very close to what is very real on the ground in terms of what is the fight for social justice. What is the fight for social justice? And you have said, well, it is a fight that we must get engaged in. And thank you for holding us accountable to that as well and asking us to join you. We stand in solidarity, but we also walk together. Thank you so much for that testimony.
Thank
and
you.
now I think Susanna is back. Susanna, are you back?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
I
go
think
ahead,
I
Susanna.
have a
I'll give you the floor straight away. Go ahead.
good evening, everyone. Thank you for me, President of Catholic Student Union of Republic Indonesia, join with international webinar. I think we have critical notes on 6 years of international convention of the elimination of all forms of racial discrimination. The International Convention on the Elimination of all forms of racial discrimination is an international convention passed by the United Nations in 1965. The main objective of ICERD to eliminate all forms of racial discrimination in all sectors of life and promote human rights and equal rights, regardless of race, color, class, ethnic of origin, region of nationality of the state, humanity, or individual level. In Indonesia, ranks fourth in the Global Racial Index. This shows that racial discrimination is still a crucial issue in the social life of people in Indonesia. The next. I think we have a 5-point factor of racial discrimination in Indonesia. Point of 1, May 1998, when the ethnic China were the subjective of physical violence, burning our property, and a mass rape. I think this information of Human Rights Watch 1998. Point of 2, discrimination against Papuan in August 1917, where was an accident in Surabaya when the Papuan student, they have a stereotype in the social in Surabaya. And the point of 3, racial discrimination against non-Muslim communities in Aceh, which has implemented Islamic law since 2001, has also faced the problem of racial discrimination against non-Muslim. For example, ethnic group, especially people of Chinese and Christian origin. Number 4, racism in cyberspace. I think racial discrimination does not only occur in the real world, but also extend into cyberspace. There is a recent report from the cybercrime unit of Polda Metro Jaya 20 and 24 shows the hate speech and discriminatory content on social media are on the rise, with many cases not being followed up optimally. The next fact of racial discrimination in Indonesia, the Indonesian Survey Institute survey in 1923 revealed that 28% of respondents recognize the existence of negative views towards certain ethnicities, especially toward ethnic Chinese and Papuan. I think this is very important to us know about ethnic Chinese and Papuan. They have many stereotypes in our land. And report from the National Human Rights Commission, the LC survey, the Indonesian National Police, and Human Rights Watch show the deep side effort to reduce racial discrimination. These issues remain a major challenge in Indonesia. And we have 7 principles to Catholic social teaching on discrimination. The first is human dignity. The church teaches the very individual has indivisible dignity because every human being is the image of God. Pope Francis has affirmed this on many occasions, including the encyclical Fratelli Tutti. which call for global brotherhood and respect for a human right. The second, justice on and openness. Compendium of the social doctrine of the Church 20 and 5 state the true justice seeks to realize equality between all people without discrimination. 3. Solidarity is a fundamental principle in the social teachings of the Church. Pope John Paul II state that solidarity requires us to share the suffering challenges of others, especially those who are oppressed. And provincial affection for the poor. The Church also affirms the importance of paying special attention to marginalized who are often victims of racial discrimination. Human rights, the Catholic Church supports the protection of human rights, which include the right to life, liberty, and equal opportunity. Universal fraternity. Pope Prince call on of us to see others as brothers, sisters, who should not be distinguished by ethnicity. Abolishing discrimination. The Church affirms that all forms of discrimination must be abolished in personal, social, and legal life. PEMCRI concerns solution to others address racial discrimination. As the president of the Catholic Student Union of Republic Indonesia, I feel it is important to highlight the issues in this international webinar. PEMCRI vision and mission, which is to fight involving and standing on the side of the oppressed through the regeneration of populist intellectuals who are inspired by Catholic value to realize social justice, humanity, and true fraternity. PEMCRI concerns solution addressed to racial discrimination. I think we have seven concern address racial discrimination. Number 1, inclusive education and sensibility. And number 2, social campaign to abolish. Number 3, improve law enforcement against racial discrimination. Number 4, interethnic and interfaith dialogue. Number 6, together with Charles campaign fraternity. Number 7, inclusive police in the workplace and government. As a part of international movement commemorating the 6th anniversary of ICE, PEMCRI invite all parties to remain committed to eliminate racial discrimination around the world, especially in Indonesia. We are called to work together to create an inclusive and just society where every individual is a value and treat equality regardless of race, class, ethnicity, region, and social background through an approach based on the Catholic social teaching and humanitarian principle, we can accelerate change in our social towards a more peaceful and fraternal world. Let us together carry out the mission with patience and conviction, with a better future for generations to come. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, thank you, Susanna, and thank you for bringing out the role of the student movement. And I'm sure Gerald's memory also must be going to the last time you were at PMCRE during the Reformasi and the East Timor independence and things like that. And just yesterday we were listening to news of the progress after Reformasi is now regressing with the army now once again in places in government kind of thing. So it looks like every struggle that we have been involved in, we have been regressing, whether it is the struggle against racism, the struggle against discrimination, the struggle in rights kind of thing. So we are in this moment, and it is nice that when you look at 65 as one of the oldest conventions that set the ball rolling for so many of the other conventions, and this notion of what we call human rights kind of thing. And so many of us growing up with this kind of framework and processes. And today, even having a member of the committee with us who talks about ratification of the treaties and things like that, we know that we live in a time where there is so much of regression on this, so much of regression on this. Sometimes, that's why I like Sumera's call to say, to believe that we cannot wait any longer kind of thing. Or Mary's call to say, go back to the basics, go back to education kind of thing. Or Chung's saying, get involved with the institutions that are engaged in looking at what are the gaps in our society through the committee and things like that. And Gerald bringing out that this is very real. It's institutionalized in our societies kind of thing. And therefore we see it every day, and we need to confront it on a daily basis. It has been a long webinar. I know. I don't think there is room for any questions or anything like that at this stage, because it has been very long. But I would like to thank each one of you for hanging on there. And I think that we get together after 60 years, kind of the 60th and birthday celebration kind of thing. Let's see that the struggle is still very young. It's still very young. Some of us have grown old in the movement, but the struggle is still very young. It's still very young, and it's still very real. So keep that in mind. Let's continue to journey together. And like Sumera says, let's create justice. We all know what it looks like. We had this in today's webinar, we got glimpses of what it can be. We all know what it looks like, and we have had glimpses of what it can be. So let's continue to walk together. The IYCT and APSD will continue to do seminars like this on the SDG and its linkages. But this is where the SDGs also become real. It becomes real when it connects to real issues of exploitation and challenge on the ground kind of thing, the human rights challenges on the ground. So thank you to IYCT for initiating this, and let us continue to stay connected. And it's great when our movement comes together like this as well, even if it's only online. But it's good to know that so many of us are still out there, still fighting. Thank you so much. We will have a group photo. Anselmo will take that, I think, or is it Bertha? And if you can put your cameras on, that would be fantastic. Yeah. And then until the next time. So Bertha, you want to call the shot when ready?
Gerald, is it still working, this one, 3 fingers? Now for Indonesia, after a long time. Indonesia is back to. Okay, 1, 2. Bertha, take one shot.
Okay. Next. One more. 1, 2. Okay. 3.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
everybody. Stay blessed, stay
Yeah,
strong.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.